100% of the people who fail at weight loss have one thing in common. They quit. In this video, I'm going to teach you a simple process that will help you quit quitting. From a very young age until about 30 years old, I struggled with my weight. By 2014, I was obese, and it took me several years to get the weight off. I was able to lose 80 pounds, and I've been able to maintain my weight in a healthy range for 9 years now. And the big change that happened for me was that I just quit quitting. Here's the thing, a lot of people tend to hyper-focus on the weight loss journey on what foods they're eating and what kind of exercises they're doing. But what I found was the really important place to focus is your mindset. That's not to say that you don't have to change your eating habits so that you get yourself into and stay in a caloric deficit, because you actually do have to do that. But the thing that will cause you to get yourself into a deficit and to stay there is having the appropriate mindset. The problem is the weight loss journey is long and it's also pretty frustrating, and you have to have the right attitude going in it. And what that really means is you have to change from being a pessimist into an optimist. Now, you might be surprised to learn this, but I am actually a pessimistic person. I know on these videos you see that I'm smiling and I have a good attitude, but my default kind of mindset from the time I was a child is to have a pessimistic outlook. But fortunately, back in 2014, I read a book called Awaken the Giant Within. It was by Tony Robbins. And that was the first place where I really started to learn about noticing your mindset, noticing what kind of thoughts go through your head, and not just noticing them, but actually changing them, realizing when you're just being negative and learning how to challenge your thoughts. And that process was key in both figuring out my weight loss plan and actually implementing it, and then in keeping the weight off. And so recently I picked up this book. It's called Learned Optimism by Martin Seligman. I picked this book up because I thought, it's good to read about mindset. It's probably just going to be a review for me. There's a quiz in the book that will show you how pessimistic you tend to be. And I really thought, I know that I can be pessimistic from time to time, but overall I'm pretty optimistic. I am still severely pessimistic. Just to give you an idea of just how pessimistic I am, one of my scores, he says, anything above this certain number cries out for change. And so when I read that, I realized, even though I have seen that this method really does work for weight loss, I've not done a great job of applying it to all different areas of my life. I've done it for weight loss. I have a very positive outlook about weight loss. I'm very optimistic. I know that if I gain a little bit of weight, I can certainly get it back off. I've not had any periods of time, even when things have been really rough, where I've gained a significant amount of weight. But at the same time, I have let negative thinking affect me in other areas. So let's talk about why pessimism is so detrimental to the weight loss journey. Here's the thing. Every day you need to wake up and you need to be able to convince yourself to stay on the plan. And the way you are going to be able to convince yourself to work the plan is that you think it's going to work, that you are optimistic. If you think a thing won't work, you won't do it. And so what that really comes down to is your beliefs. And where do your beliefs come from? A lot of times they come from your thoughts. So really this is a process of figuring out what your beliefs are and then changing them when it's necessary. And by the way, I've created a free printable on my website, 6milesofsupper.com/freebies/quit. So you can go and get your own worksheet for this whole process that I'm going to teach you. So this process is just called ABCDE. Now, Seligman is actually not the one who created this method. The person who invented the ABC method was really Albert Ellis, but really, this goes back even further. This is this idea of optimism, of not just going with your thinking. It's biblical. It's also from, Socrates and the Stoics. So let's go through the ABCDE. The first letter is A, which stands for adversity. Now, this is basically the negative thought that you catch yourself thinking. So I'm going to use myself as an example. One of the things on the weight loss journey for me, a negative thought was, I'm so fat. Okay, so that's the adversity. The next step is B, which is belief. So because I say that to myself, what beliefs then start to form? Because thoughts a lot of times lead directly to beliefs about ourselves and about the world around us. So a belief that would crop up for me was, everybody thinks I'm fat and ugly and they are really disappointed in me and I can't control my weight. And even if I were to lose weight, I would just regain it because that's what always happens. Now let's move to C, which is consequence. So because of that belief, what then happens? Well, as a consequence of believing that, I felt really unmotivated to even try to lose weight because I thought, what's the point? Really, as a consequence, I felt like a loser. Now comes the fun part, which is D, which stands for disputation. This is the part where you have to start arguing with yourself about these negative beliefs that you're holding. And so here's what my disputation with myself sounded like. When I started to notice like, oh, I'm saying to myself that I'm not capable of losing weight or that I can't keep it off, I reminded myself, actually, that's not true. I have lost weight successfully many different times. And while it was true that usually I regained the weight back really quickly, I had at least one period of my life around the time I was in college where I was at a good weight and I was maintaining it. And furthermore, I wasn't even dieting at the time. I was eating all the foods I loved. And I would also remind myself of the people around me that I knew who had lost weight successfully and had kept it off. And I thought about all the other people in my life who were at good weights and who weren't dieting. Which leads us then to E, which is energization. So after you've disputed thoroughly with yourself about that belief, you need to ask yourself, now how do you feel? What's your energy like? And for me, what I would feel like after I would argue with myself about it and show myself how I was wrong, I felt encouraged. I felt motivated to start because I thought, you know what? I can do this. And when you believe you can do it, then you'll take action. This technique of noticing when you're having negative thoughts and then actually disputing them is super powerful. I'm telling you, there are so many times on the weight loss journey where it's going to be necessary to talk yourself down off that ledge because you're going to feel like quitting from time to time. And the important thing is to give yourself the reasons why you shouldn't. I'll give you another example scenario, which is super common on the weight loss journey, and it's usually the point at which people quit. Here's what happens. You wake up one morning, you get on the scale, and the number is far higher than what you thought you were going to see. It might be something like 5 or 6 pounds overnight. It's just up. So many people in that situation, they throw their hands up and they just say, forget it. Why am I even trying? And they quit. But here's how it can go instead. First of all, the adversity is you gain 5 pounds overnight. And the belief that then will follow is that this is a pointless endeavor, that you should just quit. And the consequence of that is going to be that you feel very frustrated and that you quit. But instead of quitting, you should move on to D, which is disputation. Here's how that can look. You can say to yourself, you know what? That's probably just water weight. In fact, it was probably all that Chinese food I had. I was really thirsty afterwards and I had a lot of water. And look, in order to gain 5 pounds of actual fat, I would have needed to have consumed 19,000 calories yesterday. 19,000 calories is equivalent to 13 Big Macs, 13 large order of fries, and 13 large Cokes from McDonald's. And I did not eat that much. So, quite likely, this weight will go away. I just need to be patient and wait it out. And even if I have gained a little, that's certainly no reason to quit. If I quit, then I'm gonna gain. So instead, I just need to figure out what went wrong, why I overate, and then work on a technique that will help me to eat the right amount. Maybe I need to work on not being distracted while I'm eating, or maybe I need to slow down while I'm eating, or maybe I need to take action on my stress. But this problem is fixable. And then you move on to E, which is energization. You ask yourself, okay, how do you feel now? And I'm betting that if you go through that kind of disputation, you're gonna feel a lot better at the end. You're not gonna wanna quit. So there you have it. It's a very simple process, but it does require you taking the time to really notice your thoughts and not to just automatically believe your thoughts. And while we're at it, aside from learned optimism, another great book is Grit. And that's the first place I read about learned optimism. And another one is Mindset by Carol Dweck. And of course, I've already mentioned Awaken the Giant Within, which I thought was a really good book and it really helped me. And of course, my book, Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles, which is the book I wrote about all the harder parts of weight loss from my perspective, how I got through things, the messy parts of weight loss, some strategies that really helped me along the way. All of these books can get your mindset in the right place and help you not quit on yourself on the weight loss journey. If I can do this, as pessimistic as I am and as undisciplined as I can be from time to time, you can certainly do this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.